Welcome to another installment of Donning the Armor. This morning we will begin in Exodus chapter 26, verse 1. Moreover, you shall make the tabernacle with 10 curtains of fine woven linen, and blue, purple, and scarlet thread. With artistic designs of cherubim you shall weave them. So, as we continue here in chapter 26, we are still going through the directions God is giving Moses to build the tabernacle. We already talked about the Ark of the Covenant, the menorah. Now we are getting to curtains and how the tent itself is going to be formed. And God is saying there's going to be 10 curtains of fine woven linen, of very expensive fabric, because blue, purple, scarlet, they were difficult to make. They needed special ingredients, and they were things they most likely took from the Egyptians during their Exodus. So, not things they're making now on the road. It was something they probably had already taken this way, and this is what the Lord knows they're going to offer up in peace offerings so that they could be together with the Lord. And now they're also going to be artistic. They're going to be made with designs of cherubim. Now, if you remember back to the second commandment, it says you shall not make anything with a design. You shall not make engraved images. And here you have God saying, hey, make a designed image, make cherubim, make these almond blossoms, make these designs of cherubim into the curtains. And then you have people who, as I mentioned, like the Jesus behind me, who will say, well, that's a second commandment violation because you have a Jesus behind you. No, it's about worship. The people aren't going to be worshiping the cherubim. They're going to be worshiping God. And that was the purpose of the second commandment. To know where your worship is going. It goes to God, not an object. That's why he even further clarifies to Moses, you're not to make anything and worship it with me. You're not to make a graven image, even of what you think I am, and worship at the feet of that graven image. You worship me and me alone. It's not that we're not to have beauty. It's that we're not to worship at the feet of something. We're not to direct our prayer and worship to a thing, whether that thing represents the one true God or represents a false deity. The length of each curtain shall be 28 cubits, and the width of each curtain 4 cubits, and every one of the curtains shall have the same measurements. 5 curtains shall be coupled to one another, and the other 5 curtains shall be coupled to one another. And you shall make loops of blue yarn on the edge of the curtain on the selvage of one set. And likewise you shall do on the outer edge of the other curtain of the second set. 50 loops you shall make in one curtain, and 50 loops you shall make on the edge of the curtain that is on the end of the second set, that the loops may be clasped to one another. And you shall make 50 clasps of gold, and couple the curtains together with clasps, so that it may be one tabernacle. So he's saying all these curtains are going to make one tent. It's going to make the one tabernacle. So you're going to make them. This is the size they're going to be, and these are the loops you're going to make them, so that you have these exact measurements to make my tabernacle. You shall also make curtains of goat's hair to be a tent over the tabernacle. You shall make 11 curtains. The length of each curtain shall be 30 cubits, and the width of each curtain 4 cubits. And the 11 curtains shall all have the same measurements. And you shall couple 5 curtains by themselves and 6 curtains by themselves. And you shall double over the 6th curtain at the forefront of the tent. You shall make 50 loops on the edge of the curtain that is outermost in one set, and 50 loops on the edge of the curtain of the second set. And you shall make 50 bronze clasps. Put the clasp into the loops and couple the tent together, that it may be one. The remnant that remains of the curtains of the tent, the half curtain that remains, shall hang over the back of the tabernacle, and a cubit on one side and a cubit on the other side of what remains of the length of the curtains of the tent shall hang over the sides of the tabernacle, on this side and on that, to cover it. So now we're just getting very detailed things about how it is to be covered, how everything is to be measured out and created. Very detailed ways to do it. Now, does it really mean anything for us since we're not building a tabernacle? Not really, but it meant a lot to the people reading it, and they understood it, and it was their history, and it's our history. Christianity came out of Judaism, and it's important that we understand what our spiritual fathers did and where they came from, so that we can appreciate the place we are at now. You shall also make a covering of ram skins dyed red for the tent, and a covering of badger skins above that. In the tabernacle you shall make the boards of acacia wood, standing upright. 10 cubits shall be the length of a board, and 1.5 cubits shall be the width of each board. 2 tenons shall be in each board for binding one another. Thus you shall make for all the boards of the tabernacle. And you shall make the boards for the tabernacle, 20 boards for the south side. You shall make 40 sockets of silver under the 20 boards, 2 sockets under each of the boards for its 2 tenons. And for the second side of the tabernacle, the north side, there shall be 20 boards, and there 40 sockets of silver, 2 sockets under each of the boards. For the far side of the tabernacle, westward, you shall make 6 boards, and you shall also make 2 boards for 2 back corners of the tabernacle. They shall be coupled together at the bottom, and they shall be coupled together at the top by 1 ring. Thus it shall be for both of them. They shall be for the 2 corners. So there shall be 8 boards with their sockets of silver, 16 sockets, 2 sockets under each of the boards. Tell you the truth, even reading these things, I have a tough time visualizing it. I'm pretty sure an engineer, an architect, probably like that, they have absolutely know what this is saying. They can picture it in their head altogether. But what we need to understand is that this is building the house of God. One thing about that tabernacle, it is a tent, it is a partial building. It is made in a way that it will break down as they move. They are able to break it down and rebuild it every time they move to a new location. It is being made in such an ingenious way by the Lord, explaining it to Moses, who will then explain it to the gifted carpenters and creative types that will put this together, and the workmen who will make God's vision, so to speak, a reality. They will make this place to be with them. They want God in their presence. He is giving them a tabernacle, a house, a tent to be in their presence at all time. He is going to prove what they want. They want God with them, and he's going to show them he is. And we're going to see that different tribes, different peoples will have different responsibilities to this tabernacle, including when it needs to be moved. And you shall make bars of acacia wood, 5 for the boards on one side of the tabernacle, 5 bars for the boards on the other side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the boards of the side of the tabernacle for the far side westward. The middle bar shall pass through the midst of the boards from end to end. You shall overlay the boards with gold, make their rings of gold as holders for the bars, and overlay the bars with gold, and you shall rise up the tabernacle according to its pattern, which you were shown on the mountain. So he's also mentioning, this is how it's going to be broken down. This is how you're going to bring it back up. It's almost a collapsible building, which for people who like to sit back and believe, oh, aliens built the Egyptian pyramids. No, people did it. Why? Because people are very ingenious. People are capable of doing great things when they put their minds to it, when they put aside their wickedness and actually do something good. Now, this building plan is coming straight from God. So not only is it going to be built with human ingenuity. It's going to built with the perfect direction of the Lord. But as for people who sit back and look at Egyptian pyramids and say, and the Incan pyramids and say, oh, well, aliens must have done that. There's no way people did that. No, you're selling people short. We're a people who, because of war and because we wanted to show which country basically had the bigger cojones, we sent people to the moon with less computing power than like an iPhone. I know it's a bit of an exaggeration, but seriously, like we're people that literally strapped a bunch of people to a rocket and shot them into outer space. Human beings can do a lot. We're pretty bright. And just because we live now, we can't think that people who lived then were any dumber. They were wise, possibly even wiser than we are now. After all, we lost a lot of knowledge and wisdom and history when the Library at Alexandria was burnt down, I should say, when the Roman Empire fell. There has been a lot of lost knowledge. There has been a lot of lost wisdom because of a reliance on technology. These people of the ancient world knew things about physics just as we do. They just didn't know the mathematical formula for the physics. They just knew how to make it work. I once came across a line in a video game, a Spider-Man video game, that I thought was one of those sayings where you go, wow, man, that's pretty deep when it was first said. And you think, well, no, that's pretty stupid, actually, when you start to think about it. And Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and Miles Morales is starting to learn to be Spider-Man. And he wants to learn because he just got his powers. And Spider-Man's swinging, and he's trying to explain to Miles Morales that you need to know how to do physics because you need to know how your velocity and your swing rate, and you have to think about all this in a split second as you're swinging through the sky. And at first you're like, wow, man, that's pretty incredible. And then you think that's really dumb. Because in that case, it would make an average major league center fielder smarter than every theoretical physicist in history. Because the average center fielder of a Major League Baseball team can hear the crack of a bat from 300 feet away, see the angle the ball comes off, and make a split-second decision of what direction they need to run, how fast they need to run, what angle they need to run at to be able to catch a ball. That's all physics. He's not doing the mathematical formulas in his head. He's doing it by nature. And these ancient people, they did it by nature. And I just ranted. So, going on to verse 31. Anyway, don't discount ancient peoples. They're a lot brighter than you think. 31. You shall make a veil woven of blue, purple, and scarlet thread, and fine woven linen. It shall be woven with an artistic design of cherubim. You shall hang it upon the 4 pillars of acacia wood overlaid with gold. Their hooks shall be gold, upon 4 sockets of silver, and you shall hang the veil from the clasps. Then you shall bring the ark of the testimony in there behind the veil. The veil shall be a divider for you between the holy place and the most holy. You shall put the mercy seat upon the ark of the testimony in the most holy. You shall set the table outside the veil, and the lampstand across from the table on the side of the tabernacle towards the south, and you shall put the table on the north side. So here we have the veil being built. You shall hang the veil from clasps. That veil that separated God from the people. And not even from the people, but God from even the high priest is the only one that was allowed to go back once a year to make atonement before the Lord. That veil, we are told, when Jesus dies on the cross, is ripped top to bottom, completely shredded. The veil keeping the people from the Lord has been shredded. It no longer exists. Through the sacrifice of Christ, by acceptance and trust in his sacrifice and his divine work, we are able to go directly to God. We don't need to go through man. We have a high priest. His name is Christ Jesus. We go to him. He goes to the Father. That is the natural order of things now, because of the wonderful covenant of grace. You shall make a screen for the door of the tabernacle, woven of blue, purple, and scarlet thread, and fine woven linen, made by a weaver. And you shall make for the screen 5 pillars of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold. Their hooks shall be gold, and you shall cast 5 sockets of bronze for them. So, setting up the inside, where to set the table, where to set the menorah. Now you have a screen for the outside door. This is the way things are to be done. This is the way the Lord wants them. This is what we're going to do to be seen as a people, is what the Lord is telling Moses. I'm going to dwell among you, but there's going to be rules. There's going to be these things that are going to need to be done. Before we get to that, this is the way my house is to be set, my dwelling place among you. Chapter 27. You shall make an altar of acacia wood, 5 cubits long and 5 cubits wide. The altar shall be square, and its height shall be 3 cubits. You shall make its horns on its 4 corners. Its horns shall be in one piece with it, and you shall overlay it with bronze. Also you shall make its pans to receive its ashes, and its shovels, and its basins, and its forks, and its fire pans. You shall make all its utensils of bronze. So where everything in the Holy of Holies, everything is made of gold, where God is dwelling, everything that man is touching is now being made of bronze. You shall make a grate for it, a network of bronze, and on the network you shall make 4 bronze rings in its 4 corners. You shall put it under the rim of the altar beneath, that the network may be midway up the altar, and you shall make poles for the altar, poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with bronze. The poles shall be put in rings, and the poles shall be on the 2 sides of the altar to bear it. You shall make it hollow with boards, as was shown to you on the mountains, so they shall make it. You shall also make the court of the tabernacle. For the south side there shall be hangings for the court made of fine woven linen, 100 cubits long for one side, and its 20 pillars and their 20 sockets shall be bronze. The hooks of the pillars and their bands shall be silver. Likewise along the length of the north side there shall be hangings 100 cubits long, and its 20 pillars and its 20 sockets of bronze. And hooks of the pillars shall be bands of silver. So as we see, as we come out from God, as it goes from God to man, the precious materials, the precious metals become lesser. God is where our true riches lie. Everything that is for man is less than what is for God. God comes first, then everything else. And along the width of the court on the west side shall be hangings of 50 cubits, with their 10 pillars and their 10 sockets. The width of the court on the east side shall be 50 cubits. The hangings on one side of the gate shall be 15 cubits, and their 3 pillars and their 3 sockets. And on the other side shall be hangings of 15 cubits, with their 3 pillars and their 3 sockets. For the gate of the court there shall be a screen 20 cubits long, woven blue, purple, and scarlet thread, and fine woven linen, made by a weaver. It shall have 4 pillars and 4 sockets. All the pillars around the court shall have bands of silver. Their hooks shall be of silver, and their sockets of bronze. The length of the court shall be 100 cubits, the width 50 throughout, and height 5 cubits, made of fine woven linen, and its sockets of bronze. All the utensils of the tabernacle for all its service and its pegs, all the pegs of the court shall be of bronze. Pegs being to put everything into the ground, like tent stakes. And you shall command the children of Israel that they bring you pure oil pressed olives for the light, to cause the lamp to burn continually in the tabernacle of meeting outside the veil which is before the testimony. Aaron and his son shall tend it from evening till morning before the Lord. It shall be a statute forever to their generations on behalf of the children of Israel. So the line of Aaron, the Levites, are going to be the ones to be before the testimony and service in the tabernacle of meeting. All of these things being laid out by God, saying, this is how I'm going to dwell before you. This is how I'm going to dwell in your midst. This tabernacle, this house that you're going to collapse and store and carry and go from place to place as you travel. And as soon as we stop, you're going to reassemble, rebuild. This is where I'm going to stay. This is where I'm going to meet with you. This is how Aaron and his sons are going to show me worship and respect. This is where the people are going to meet. This is going to be how they know I am with them at all times. They want me in their presence. This is how I'm going to be there. And it's an interesting thing to think that this tabernacle, this tent, will be the main place of meeting for hundreds of years, until the temple is finally built by Solomon. And then the temple is only used for truly short periods of time, because the nations fall apart after Solomon's death. The kingdom gets ripped in two. There starts to be idolatry. And it's only after Nehemiah rebuilds Jerusalem and its walls that they truly start to come back and begin to worship properly again. And then a few short 100 years later, Jesus comes and they reject him yet again. This meeting place, this tabernacle, it was a temporary thing. But it was something the people needed. The Lord was with them anyway, everywhere they went. You can get rid of the cloud of smoke. You can get rid of the pillar of fire. You can get rid of the fiery furnace of the mountain, basically. You can get rid of the tabernacle. They could be all on their own. And the Lord's still there, as the Lord's still here. But they wanted a visual representation of the Lord in their lives. And he's giving it to them. But he's giving it to them in a way that will make them have to understand the burden it is to follow him. The Lord frees us from our burden of sin. It does not free us from the burden of being his follower. We have a burden in following him, and it is to be obedient in following his commandments. It is being obedient in following out the Great Commission. It is being obedient in being a light for this world. There's so much joy wrapped up in all those things. But they are burdens. They're great burdens. They're awesome burdens. But they're burdens. They're things we need to do. When we have salvation, we shall do work in his name and for his kingdom. As James would say, faith without works is dead. That doesn't say salvation is dead without works, by the way. It says our proposition, our saying that we have faith in Christ, our profession of trust in his promises, of placing ourselves under his authority, if we are not producing fruit as a branch of his vine, then we have to wonder whether or not we are connected to his vine. It's a burden to produce fruit, but it's a joyous one. And that's what these Israelites are going to have to do. They're going to have the burden of carrying and dismantling and reassembling and caring for and performing all the tasks, not just building it initially, but upkeeping it. They're going to have this burden for the Lord. They're going to carry this burden with them everywhere they go for the Lord. But what a glorious burden it is. An absolute glorious burden. One of which we have because we house the Holy Spirit. We house God inside of us. And sometimes it can be a burden when we want to follow our flesh. And we feel that tug. He's reminding us, oh no, you're not dragging me along for that. Don't drag me along into that sin, because I'm in you. Well, any sin that these people are going to do, they're going to have to do knowing that God is right in their midst, and he is not going to be happy with it. So, we have burdens as followers of God. They did then, we do now. They are glorious, amazing burdens. One's worth all the riches in the world, which is why they're giving up so many riches to build the tabernacle. Precious metals, precious fabrics, their time, their effort, giving of themselves to have the Lord in their presence. And sometimes we need to ask ourselves, what are we willing to give up to have the Lord in ours? To know that the Lord is in ours. He is whether we do it or not. But in order to worship him, we need to show that he comes before all else. All right, that's where we're going to end for today. I hope this was a blessing for you. It was fruitful in your life and for your morning. And I hope to see you again next time. But until then, be blessed.